changing your life one story at a time. This is the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast with Editor-in-Chief Amy Newmark.
Hey, it's Amy Newmark with your daily dose of Chicken Soup for the Soul inspiration. It's Friend Friday, and that means we get to talk to someone in the Chicken Soup for the Soul family today. And today's guest is Mark Rickerby, who has written many stories for us, including one that I keep thinking about, even though I've read tens of thousands of Chicken Soup for the Soul stories. So, Mark, hello and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Amy. Great to be here.
You know, Mark is one of those interesting guys you meet in Los Angeles who does a little bit of everything. He's a writer, a songwriter, a singer, a voice actor. He's also the head writer for the upcoming TV Western series Big Sky. And his stories have been featured in magazines like Black Belt, Inside Kung Fu, Nostalgia, Whole Lifetimes, and also in 12 Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And I'm very happy to have such a prolific writer on with us today. And we're going to specifically talk about Mark's story in our Dreams and Premonitions book, and it's called The Warning. So, Mark, tell us what happened and what you related in that story.
Well, I had one sibling, a brother, who was 3 years older than me. And when he was young, he was a great writer, a great athlete, had a lot going for him. But when he was about 13, he got into drugs. Started out with, marijuana and alcohol and stealing from the dad's liquor cabinet and stuff like that. But he went right up the ladder to heroin, and we spent a lot of years visiting jails and begging him to change and trying everything, and nothing really worked. And he died of a drug overdose at the age of 37. A year before he died, I kind of stopped talking to him because I'd tried everything else, and I was kind of trying to use tough love and thinking that might work. And then my mom and dad called me in the middle of the night one night and told me that they had received a call from the police, and they got the news that he'd passed away. And we were all beside ourselves because we were all praying and hoping that he would change, and still holding out hope after all those years. But the worst had happened, and I moved in with my parents for a while, and I was doing my best to find the right words, the magic words, to make their grief, lighter. And I don't think I was really dealing with my own very much. And one would stay awake, all night, and the other one would stay awake all day. And my dad stopped working, during that period, and so I basically didn't sleep at all. And it was pretty overwhelming. It was a bad time. And one night I was out on the freeway. I live in Los Angeles, and it's not exactly the happy, nice place when it comes to driving.
Yeah, I know. I was just out there. I couldn't believe at 5 a.m. I saw a total traffic jam out my hotel window.
I think L.A. and certain cities in Los Angeles have won the dubious distinctions of the least courteous drivers in the country a couple of times. So anyway, I'm driving along, and I see something that isn't very uncommon, somebody tailgating me. And I'm not an aggressive person. I never was. But I think everybody has sort of a reservoir of pain. And when somebody overreacts, it's usually because somebody aggravated that person and when their reservoir was already full. And they sort of tipped it. They added too much. And so I was at that point, and I just was like, you know what? I actually kind of resented the person for adding more pain to this overwhelming load I already had. And I just said, you know what? I can't do anything about my parents' pain. I can't do anything about my own, but I can beat this guy up. So I just kind of went crazy, and I slammed on my brakes, and he went into a skid, and he started motioning for me to pull over, so I did, and we got out of our cars on the side of the freeway, and at midnight, I think it was, right around midnight, and I was walking toward him, and the grief and the sadness had kind of overwhelmed everything in me. I didn't even feel fear, and I was just walking toward him, and I'm not Hulk Hogan or anything. Pretty normal-looking guy. But I think he saw this complete abandonment in me, and he was like, "What's wrong with you, man?" And he turned around and got back in his car and drove away.
Smart guy.
And I just stood. I think he saw the desperation or something, and something in the headlights lighting up my eyes or something. So I just stood there and for a second went, "Oh," and then got back in my car and kept driving. And the next night, I had a dream. The exact same thing unfolded. I was on the freeway, same exact situation. Somebody tailgated me. I did all the same stuff. Got out of my car, and I was walking toward this stranger, and as soon as he got close enough for me to see him, it was my brother.
Wow, that's really amazing.
Yeah, it was, just as you might imagine. I just completely imploded and started bawling, and it's hard for me to tell the story now, but even 20 years later, he died in 1997, and it was such a powerful dream that even relating it is still powerful for me. So, of course, as one would do if you find out that somebody you just lost is not dead, is your obviously your deepest, fondest prayer and wish. I started blubbering and hugging him and kissing him and saying, "Paul, you got to come home, man. You got to come home. Mom and Dad are beside themselves. You got to let them know you're okay. You're alive. I can't believe you're alive. Oh, thank God." And he said, Mark, I'm not alive." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, where have you been?" And he kind of looked up, and he smiled, and he said something like, "If I told you, you wouldn't believe me, or you wouldn't be able to understand it." So it just kind of degenerated at that point into like a lot of hugging, and sort of like in the movies when somebody's hugging somebody and then they wake up and they're hugging their pillow. It's kind of like that. And I was just begging him to come home. And but before the dream ended, he said to me, "Mark, you've got to stop doing this stuff. You can never do this again, what you did last night. You can't, if you get killed, Mom and Dad are just going to go completely out of their minds. I mean, don't be stupid like I was." And then that's when I started blubbering and hugging him. And I said, "Okay, I won't. And I was crying. And I woke up crying. And when I woke up, I wasn't as sad as you might expect that I would be. I actually felt like I'd just been with my brother. I felt his essence in the room. And over the years, I've tried to make sense of that dream, and I'm very aware of Freudian theory on dreams and how, they're very much about wish fulfillment sometimes. But the dream was so vivid, and the reenactment of the event the night before was so exact that, the feeling that I'd just been with my brother and feeling him in the room made me feel like it was more of a mysterious event. I've had my bouts with faith, and a lot of it has to do with my brother and his death and some other bad things that have happened. And
so,
I don't
Mark,
blame God.
One of the things you told me was that you had always felt really guilty about your brother's death and how you had abandoned him, although really it was probably tough love to not have contact with him during his last year of life. And I know you said one of the things you felt happened in this dream was that your brother gave you forgiveness for not having been there for him at the end.
Yeah, that was a big part of it too. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, and so
in addition to my parents' grief, it was also my own sadness that, man, if I had just if he thought I can call Mark, maybe he'll talk me out of doing this again, because he was trying to get clean toward the end. And I thought, wow, if I was closer to him, maybe I would have even been there that night. And we used to get together. I'd go to his apartment and I'd sit and talk to him, and we'd have a couple of beers, and I'd try to find the magic words to, make him stop using, or, I always said to him, "Paul, Mom and Dad and I are not expecting you to become an astronaut. We just want you to stay out of trouble."
There are no magic words. You can't do anything as a family member except be there for them. And tough love often does work, so you didn't do the wrong thing by leaving him to his own resources for his last year. I thought it was really important that your dream not only snapped you out of this angry behavior, but also, most importantly, gave you self-forgiveness so that you could move forward with your life.
Yes, it was a release. It was really after that day, I felt like the burden had been lifted. Just relating that dream to my parents was like, it really made them feel a lot better too. That they felt like it was a visit.
So after that, how did your life change? After you had that life-changing dream, where did you go from there?
I've never been aggressive physically, even though you mentioned I wrote for Black Belt in Sight Kung Fu. I've always been a martial artist, but because of my martial arts training, as everybody who trains martial arts knows, that it should make you more peaceful, not more violent. So I've always avoided confrontation, but it's not to say I didn't get angry. So now, since that happened, I've had more of a philosophical attitude toward crazy people on the road and people that are angry or aggressive in general. I've seen them as troubled people, and more to be sort of sympathized with than to just bounce back with anger and reflect what they're doing. And it's a promise I made to my brother that I wouldn't do that anyway. So I just get out of the way. I mean, I do the speed limit, and I play some nice tunes, and I let the world swirl around me, sort of. You know, I'm not going to break that promise to my brother, and in 20 years I haven't even flipped the bird. I haven't become a member of the Bird Club in Los Angeles.
Well, that's pretty good for
I
LA.
don't do anything like that.
So I'm really glad you shared this story with our Chicken Soup for the Soul audience. You've written a lot of stories for us. Tell me about that. What does writing these stories do for you?
They help me make sense of things that happen to me like that. I'd say about half of the 12 stories that are in the Chicken Soup books are, I don't want to say supernatural, but spiritual in nature and mysterious. They help me make sense of those events, and it has actually increased my faith, because I have all these questions about God and everything, but these things keep happening to me, you know? And it's almost like God saying, Mark, lighten up, man, you know? And sending me little pennies, you know, pennies from heaven. But they also help me make sense of the world. Like most people, I kind of despair about the amount of tragedy and sadness and, you know, things in the world that I feel like I can't really do much about. But writing and getting these stories published makes me feel less weak and impotent. You know, people that have particular problems can actually go to the store and find a Chicken Soup for the Soul book that matches what they're dealing with. And so I feel like, wow, you know, my stories are getting internationally published, and people are being, you know, helped, you know, by things that I've experienced. I had a friend who said, Mark, how can you share these stories that are so personal? And he kind of felt like it was giving too much away. And I said to him, man, being silent and strong, the strong silent type or whatever, that's what causes cancers, especially in men. I don't want to hold this stuff in. And if it can help somebody else, you know, by my being vulnerable and brave or whatever, and just throwing it out there, then that's what we're kind of here for, I think. I don't think we're here to sit around feathering our own nest and bottling everything up. I think we're supposed to help each other, whether it's helping somebody carry their groceries to their car or helping them, you know, deal with fighting cancer or dealing with grief or whatever it is.
Wow, you are really talking my language, because that's the thing we hear the most from our fans, is that when they read our books, they feel like they're less alone. And it's because of people like you who are very unselfish about sharing these revealing personal stories. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciated having you come on. I hope you continue to have a wonderful vacation in the Grand Canyon where you're calling us from.
Yeah, you might have heard the Grand Canyon train going by there a few times.
I hope you have a great time with your kids. I'm Amy Newmark. Thanks for listening today. And next time we get together, we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about gratitude and how you can get into the proper state of mind for the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. And if you want to read more about our book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Dreams and Premonitions, with Mark's story in it, please go to our website, chickensoup.com.